який ровно місяць тому приймав групу представників громадського сектору України в парламенті французькому. Там відбувся круглий стіл з питань щодо України. І ми радо вітаємо зараз групу дружби Франція-Україна, яка представлена тут такими депутатами. Ми радо вітаємо голову комітету європейських справ парламенту Франції пані Даніель Auroi. Ми радо вітаємо заступника голови комітету європейських справ Франції пана Жерома Ламбера. Також ми радо вітаємо пана П'єра Lequiller, заступника голови комітету, пана Бернара Deflesselles, члена комітету європейських справ, пані Marie-Louise, члена комітету європейських справ парламенту Франції, пана Ремі Повроса, який є головою парламентської групи дружби Франція-Україна, а також пана Joaquima Pueyo, заступника голови парламентської групи дружби Франція-Україна. І ми просимо пані Даніель Auroi, будь ласка, до слова. Дякую.
Merci beaucoup, merci à vous de nous accueillir dans ce centre tellement symbolique pour un point presse qui nous paraît d'autant plus important que nous nous réjouissons, mes collègues et moi-même, de pouvoir dialoguer avec vous quelques instants sur l'organisation de l'Ukraine aujourd'hui, avec une période qui est une période difficile, j'allais dire que nous vivons ensemble l'histoire, vous la faites au quotidien dans votre pays. Nous avons eu l'occasion d'accueillir à l'Assemblée nationale, dans notre commission des affaires européennes, déjà vos représentants, votre représentante en tout cas, parce que pour nous, il est important, et c'est un peu pour cela que nous sommes depuis hier en Ukraine, il est important pour nous de faire comprendre, d'essayer de comprendre le mieux possible ce qui se passe sur votre territoire, pour en rendre compte à nos collègues parlementaires, pour permettre un dialogue bien plus éclairé et de meilleure qualité avec les autres eurodéputés et les autres députés d'une façon générale. Notre commission donc, des affaires européennes a créé un groupe de travail spécifiquement, un groupe de suivi sur la politique orientale de l'Union européenne, dont bien sûr l'Ukraine est à l'heure actuelle non seulement place centrale, mais le seul objet de discussion, parce que pour nous c'est fondamental. Ce déplacement, nous l'avions prévu depuis longtemps, parce que nous avions tenu à nous organiser et à venir vous écouter et dialoguer avec vous lorsque les élections présidentielles seraient passées, de façon à d'abord vérifier qu'elles se faisaient de façon extrêmement normale, ce qui a été le cas dans 90% du pays, vérifier aussi que l'accord d'association était bien sur de bons rails, et c'est le cas puisque aujourd'hui les choses sont avancées, et puis aussi nous rendre compte de la situation sur place, puisqu'il nous semble que l'Ukraine est sous une double contrainte quelque part. La première, c'est celle du regard international qui aujourd'hui est bienveillant et aide l'Ukraine, compris de façon matérielle, mais qui en même temps essaie de regarder si des progrès se font en matière effectivement de transparence, de démocratie, de lutte contre toutes sortes de corruption et de mise en interface et en relation de l'Ukraine avec les autres pays du monde. Mais aussi, et il me semble qu'ici nous sommes dans un lieu symbolique, la surveillance du peuple, de ceux qui à Maïdan se sont mobilisés et qui, me semble-t-il, aujourd'hui restent, à travers ne serait-ce que le centre de presse que vous avez créé, des observateurs extrêmement pointus et extrêmement essentiels de l'évolution de la situation ukrainienne. Je vais parler rapidement de ce qui se passe aux marges, mais aussi de la façon dont les institutions vont évoluer. Et je sais bien que nombre d'entre vous attendent, tout autant que nous, en tant qu'Européens, la suite de l'histoire qui commence à s'inscrire avec l'élection présidentielle et qui va se continuer sans doute dans quelques mois, et je pense que nous l'espérons tous, avec des élections législatives anticipées qui mettront, me semble-t-il, une deuxième phase de cette évolution de l'Ukraine post-Maïdan, si je puis dire, puisque nous sommes ici sur la place de Maïdan, et puis parce que pour nous, ce que nous avons retenu pour le moment de ce qui se passe dans l'Ukraine, c'est Biden et la mobilisation qui reste forte, en plus, et ça c'est le côté positif, des choses beaucoup plus difficiles qui se passent à l'Est, où effectivement on peut dire que depuis 3 ou 4 jours est repartie une situation de guerre, et puis avec la question ouverte, et pour vous pas réglée, de la Crimée, qui est l'annexion d'un pays dans des conditions qui sont des conditions internationales inacceptables. Donc nous sommes bien conscients, tous, et c'est pour ça que nous sommes venus pour vous écouter, et nous avons déjà rencontré à la fois des élus de la Rada, des gens du ministère, mais aussi des gens de la société civile que vous représentez, que ce soit des ONG ou que ce soit aussi les représentants du monde du travail, du monde des affaires, parce qu'il faut bien que l'Ukraine continue à vivre, même dans cette période difficile. Et c'est pour cela aussi que nous n'allons pas rester seulement à Kiev, mais ce soir et demain, nous serons à Odessa pour voir un autre endroit symbolique de ce qui se passe en Ukraine à l'heure actuelle, et pour dialoguer avec effectivement ceux qui sont plus au sud de l'Ukraine, de façon à rendre compte à nos collègues d'une situation avec toutes nos sensibilités, puisque nous représentons toutes les sensibilités politiques de l'Assemblée nationale, et aussi toute notre attention, et vous l'avez bien compris, toute notre solidarité. Je ne serai pas plus long parce que je pense que le plus intéressant, c'est le dialogue, c'est de répondre à vos questions ou de vous en poser d'autres, parce que ça viendra forcément. Et nous sommes 6 qui pouvons vous répondre et vous écouter avec la plus grande attention. Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup, Madame Auroi. Шановні колеги, якщо є запитання, то прошу. Дуже. Чи є запитання у залу наших шановних журналістів? Тоді, якщо дозволите, я би попросила пана Ремі Повроса, голову депутатської
démocratie, ça me paraît important. Moi, j'ai rencontré de nombreux Ukrainiens qui me parlent beaucoup des droits de l'homme, des droits humains, de la justice indépendante, par exemple. Bien sûr, il y a le volet économique et social qui me paraît important. Donc, je crois que c'est ce message que nous sommes venus vous porter. Et puis, qu'on soit clair également, nous sommes extrêmement d'accord avec votre gouvernement sur le territoire, sur l'intégrité du territoire. Il n'y a aucun motif, il n'y a aucune raison.
First and foremost, with solutions to the problem of integrity of your country, there can be no questions regarding the integrity of the Ukrainian nation. And as the EU and EU MPs have already mentioned several times, these issues are beyond negotiation. I was personally present during that lush ceremony on 6th of July, June, when in presence of Mr. Obama and President Putin, your president arrived and was greeted with warm applause. It was a clear sign of support. And actually the elections resulted very open, very transparent, and very democratic. And I can tell you that your president was totally accepted and supported by all the European and international institutions. That way, it can be said that Ukraine has stepped on the path towards genuine democracy, and we can only help you with implementing this agreement on the best possible terms and conditions. Indeed, my colleagues have expressed it rather clearly to mean this position. It was really shared by the National Assembly of France. And speaking of myself, I worked for a number of years together with our president, Ms. Danielle Auroi, within the scope of the committee. We had lots of communications regarding these topics, and we presented the results of them. Among the results, we can name the support of Ukraine's association with the EU. And as you know, within the scope of our committee and the National Assembly of France, the project was unanimously received by the National Assembly with just some tiny clarifications. One of the Council parliamentaries asked us yesterday about this project that has not been ratified by the Parliament yet. So the question was when such ratification should be expected. Given the trade side of the agreement signed recently, it is not about the agreement to be endorsed by the European Parliament. I presented this report, and I also presented another report that I submitted earlier. It concerned the crisis and the developments on the Maidan in Kyiv with dozens of victims. So my report highlighted the situation in Ukraine and provided some pictures to what has been already explained before my speech. It was also to express solidarity with the Ukrainian people, and we as representatives of the European and Western community are now expressing our position as regards Ukraine and Russia, and we need to do whatever we can to avoid an increase in the number of victims in Ukraine. I can also tell you that I'd like to express our will and intention to act in searches of diplomatic ways of solving these issues, because the diplomatic way has its certain benefits, because otherwise, if arms will continue talking, we won't see or find a solution to the problem.
I would like to clarify a little bit as to ratification that has been mentioned, because Lithuania, I believe, has ratified, and European Parliament as well, but that's the formal act. When we agreed to that agreement, whether there will be this signature or not, this ratification, our Committee on European Affairs but that is quite a formal proposition. Do you have any questions? We respect French position as to Ukraine. My question is, today, for many Ukrainians, France is associated with the supply of battleships, Mistral. Does your Commission have any plans as to cooperation with the public organization in Ukraine as to seizure of or suspension of this contract with Russia? Because we believe that is a big threat to the security and peace in the Black Sea region. The best question that you could have asked is about Mistral. Two things. If we want to be useful, the only question which is of importance is what can you do for us, and how we French parliamentarians can be useful for Ukraine. You see 6 parliamentarians from France, and we represent different political opinions, different with but the Communist Party. We have 95% of the representation of French Parliament, basically, and that's very important. It starts from emotions. How would you like us to help you if we do not understand you? We understand people better when we are in the heart of the events, when we are down in the center. And this visit to the Parliament gives us the opportunity to understand these sufferings, the efforts that Ukrainian people put into gaining victory, and that helps us to help you when you go to the Southern African Republic and you go to a Apartheid Museum. You understand better the sufferings of people. For us, it's very important. And being at Maidan helps us understand what is specific in your country. But there are 2 or 3 things that we could do for you. First of all, we should be able to give your message to the Council to say that your government, your government, your parliament, should have their representatives in all different institutions, so that we have all the arguments to help you. You have to do a lot. Your government, your parliament have to do a lot. This lobby should be felt better in 26 countries that are members of the EU. That's our position. Talking about economy, you've touched upon the problem that has been in existence since the democracy appeared on our continent, especially starting from 2000. And the question you're asking about sales of Mistral, supply of Mistral, this contract is the Russian contract, and it is almost completed. And the National Assembly that we represent, we do not have a lot of opportunities to influence somehow the resolution of that problem. These battleships will be supplied. You can do nothing with that. That is something irreversible. There have been the elections of the president were held with the record attendance. 55% for democratic country is a very high indicator. The parliament has to work in coordination with the president to provide the president the opportunity to act according to his plan, and we need to organize, you need to organize as soon as possible the parliamentary elections, which could help your president, the president of Ukraine, to make quick steps and quick actions. And as soon as the parliament acts in unison, supporting the president, so that Ukraine can move forward as soon as possible, so that all 28 country members could step by step also move forward from the point of view of restructuring of your country. If we can, if we want to be useful, we need to understand you, to understand the soul of your country. That's very important, especially at the level of communication between people. To understand the soul is important, and emotions are important, and understanding you better, we will be able to help you better. As the representative of youth of Ukraine, I would like to ask the following question. For Ukrainians, the soul of Ukrainians is Europe and our state, Ukraine. And for us, it is very important to have visa-free regime with Europe. But before we get it, we still have time, and we have to travel to Europe, paying different prices. But now what's happening is that the French embassy also is not really liberalizing the visa regime, and we still have to prove that we will not immigrate, that we will not stay in France. We do not want to stay in France. We want to live in Ukraine, but have the opportunity to travel to France. What is your position? And what in the nearest months can France offer Ukraine? Good afternoon. Before I answer your questions, I would like to add to what my colleague said on parliamentary diplomacy. You know that according to the diplomacy is guaranteed by the President of France and other institutions, and our parliamentary democracy is very important, because if we here represent different political positions. We also represent all the departments, the whole geography of our country. In France, there is a big community, Ukrainian community, which plays a very important role supporting you. And you have many so-called ambassadors. I mean, these Ukrainians from Ukrainian diaspora or community, they are very active and answering your question. Unfortunately, the visa problem depends on European plan regulations. We thought about that under the control of our committee. The head of our committee, we decided at the level of our parliament to take a commitment to transfer such advice or such wishes, but there's people behind our leaders, and we believe that we need to provide your people with the opportunity to better feel themselves part of Europe, part of your people, of your country. Because in the 21st century, in Ukraine, in France, we need all these desires and aspirations to peace to echo in other countries. And we take commitment to help you and your friends to do so, that you can go out these borders. I would also like to add that, unfortunately, we have to finish now because we are limited in time. We have more meetings. My colleagues and myself, we came here to hear you, to confirm that the national French Assemblée Nationale of France, we're ready to hear your questions. We are ready. We will share your concerns. And talking about youth, I would like to add, what does not depend on the Embassy of France, on the French Parliament, but Italy is now presiding in European Union, and for Italy, for all our countries, is the youth affairs, employment for youth, so that youth can enrich their knowledge as to the life of young people in other countries. And it could be easier. We hope that it will be easier to get visas. We issued 2 resolutions which are supporting Ukraine in their desire, and in time we'll be able to tell something more specific about that. Our colleagues from French Parliament will be informed about your wishes, and we'll do all we can. Thank you for listening to us. Thank you for expressing your ideas. Thank you.
I guess for Madame Auroi. Mr. Obama suggested that France pause the sale of the warships to Russia. Why didn't France postpone this deal at the same time that you're criticizing Russia for its aggression in Ukraine?
Là, j'allais dire, la question que vous posez est une question ouverte qui, je le répète, ne se pose pas spécialement pour la France. Toutes les questions.
This question, which is still open, not just for France, but for the whole European Union, because France can suggest help.
Que l'Ukraine sur.
First of all, Ukraine needs in many sectors to be integrated, practically integrated to different aspects of the activities, of economic activity of European Union. And we need time to implement these intentions. Ukraine needs also to use the time which is provided to it by European Union, and the assistance which is coming from different UN funds is important, and that is the work which is the work of international European level. What can help Ukraine to establish dialogue with Russia? This is also the pressure which the President Obama can exercise the same way as European Union, with the help of the dialogues with the representatives of committee at the level of the ministers of foreign affairs. When the crisis started, there were 3 ministers of foreign affairs of European Union, Polish, French, and German, who met in Kiev in order to develop the opportunity to help Ukraine and to combat the aggression. Russia will still be there. We need to continue dialogue, and on that chessboard, it will not disappear from this international chessboard. So within this complicated system, each one has to use parliamentary diplomacy either in Bundestag or in our parliament or in Polish parliament, so that we use all possible instruments to provide assistance to Ukraine so that Ukraine can exist. And in autonomous regime. And I know that people from Maidan control that process, they participate in that process. And definitely, based on your and our history, we will continue our dialogue. And I can say that we will do everything possible, you and us. We'll do everything to be of maximum help to you. And so we hope that we will have more meetings like that, and thank you for this dialogue, which was so useful. And we again tell you, welcome to Ukraine, welcome to our Ukraine Crisis Media Center. Thank you.